from the wall. And that's the corner we're looking at. And I've colored in orange what we call the western wall. It's just a little patch of the wall, the continuation. Beyond that wall there is the wall that we call the western wall. The whole wall actually is the western wall. It's a great retaining wall that held up the platform on which the temple stood. Are you with me? Because the Mount Moriah was just too small. So Herod built a great platform over the top, filled it in with debris, and so the western wall is actually not part of the temple, it's just part of this great wall around it. And the reason it's so special, and the reason why Jews pray there, is because this was the nearest point to the temple itself. They couldn't get to this part because we'll see it's been covered over by buildings. They could only get to this part of the wall. And it's the nearest to the Holy of Holies. When you go up to the wall, you're facing where the Holy of Holies once was. Now there's a Muslim building over it, but the rock is still there underneath. So this, from here, this corner to this corner, is 1/2 kilometer. It's huge. It's something like 14 football pitches plus the bleachers. This huge platform on the top. What we saw in the film was the pilgrim buying at those shops. You see where the children are down there? The film was made actually down there. That is part of a street. You see the street began on that corner, went right up to the Antonia fortress. We'll talk about that at the other end. Then there was a street that went that way. They met at this corner, and they call this the first overpass in history, because there was a way up onto the Temple Mount by this arch that came out there, and so people could walk underneath that way, or they could go up onto the Temple Mount to this great building that stood along this wall. And that was where the money changers were, where people could buy things, where disputes were settled, where elders sat. It was like a big covered market area, but a very splendid area here. Round the central part was the this was called the court of the Gentiles. Here, Gentiles weren't allowed to cross this fence here. Okay, they stayed outside, and Herod himself probably never went across because he wasn't considered to be Jewish by the Jewish people. They never accepted him. He might only have just stayed in this building here. But it was truly magnificent. It was considered one of the wonders of the ancient world. And the walls, if you can see, that's the top of that archway there. And then it towered up again higher than that with the walls. And then the temple was even higher than that. Wow. So it kind of towered up into the sky. It was very, very impressive. 50 meters were the walls alone. That's like 150 feet. And what is it? Each floor, how much is a floor of a house? Is like 6 feet?
Like
more. It's
10.
More, is it 9 feet? 9
About
feet.
9 feet.
So that's like 9 feet is 3 meters. So it's like 3s into 50. Well, it's about 15, 16 floors high. It was enormously high. Okay. So now, if we can hear ourselves speak, we'll go down, look at the mikveh, and go down into the Herodian street itself. The street where the shops were that led from this corner right up to the far end. What we're going to do tomorrow when we go in the tunnel is we're going to follow the western wall right to the end, the far end, but it's buried under the Muslim quarter. The Muslim quarter was simply built over it. You'll understand all this tomorrow. The reason why we can't see it all is the houses on top of it today, but there's a tunnel that we're going to follow. We can see this part, and we can see where the western wall is. And Herod, being Herod, chose the most enormous stones to build his building. The biggest one we're going to see tomorrow when we're in the tunnel. The Herodian stones are the lower ones. See that the stones change. Can you see when you get up to the arch, the way that comes out? They're smaller and they're later. after the temple was destroyed by the Romans. And during the Muslim period, the wall was rebuilt on top, but the lower stones are the ancient ones. They have a framework around. Can you see that? They're really beautiful. And they go in a couple of centimeters. Each layer is a couple of centimeters in. And the idea is it gives stability. And it also, when we get to the corner there, look up. It doesn't look as though it's falling over you. You know, when you look at a skyscraper in America, you stand there, it looks like it's coming at you. Here, Herod's engineers or architects or whatever, they made each stone go in a little bit, like a pyramid, that way. You'll see when we stand at, can you see at the side
You can see
there?
it from here, yeah.
So that you don't get that illusion of it falling over on top of you. And there's no cement between the stones. There was no cement. It's just the weight of these enormous stones pressing down, one on top of the other. And they were so beautiful. They were chiseled around the edge with this framework. Even those we'll see in the tunnel that were below the level of the street, because it's built right on bedrock, even those were beautifully framed. The work is just immense. It took 11 years to build this temple precinct. Apart from all the other things he was doing at the same time, of course. So the idea of this framework is that it gives the stones a texture, you know, a light and shade. When the strong Israeli sun is shining on the wall, instead of it just being flat, it had this frame around. So you've got the shadow around the stones. So we'll just go down and see the mikveh.